All the team said no.
Every day that I step on the floor, I always think about my dad, and that motivates me and it pushes me to, play harder.
The movie begins in Lagos, Nigeria. Charles and Veronica Abo were blessed with a child named Francis. Facing financial hardship, they left Lagos in search of a better life. Their journey took them to Turkey, where, as undocumented immigrants, they were forced to make the painful decision to live apart from their baby. Unable to establish a stable life there, they eventually moved to Greece. In Greece, they managed to earn a modest living, though their circumstances remained similar to those of the lower class. After the birth of their third child, Charles and Veronica began considering the possibility of obtaining legal residency. However, their efforts were hindered when they lost their passports, preventing immigration authorities from processing their application.
Stop using temp agencies and find legal work. Find a job that puts you on payroll and gets your social security number.
Since then, they stayed as illegal immigrants in 2004 when they had a total of 5 children. Veronica taught her children how to survive in the streets, often selling small souvenirs just to make ends meet. It wasn't safe. At any moment, they might have to grab their things and run from the immigration police. But somehow, they kept smiling. They were together, and that was enough. They had escaped the worst, and even if life was still hard, they were surviving. Every coin they earned mattered, and no matter how small the day's profit, they gave thanks. Veronica stretched every bit of money like magic, cooking, saving, sacrificing. There was even enough to surprise the children with a soccer ball. Like many Nigerian boys, they dreamed of being like J.J. Okocha, and Charles encouraged that dream. Since all of the boys were born in Greece, Charles and Veronica gave them local names: Phanis, Giannis, Kostas, and Alexandros. By 2007, Phanis and Giannis were growing into young boys. Charles, holding tightly to his love for football, often took them to a nearby mini soccer field to play. It was their little escape, a patch of freedom in a world that often felt uncertain. But one day, just beside the soccer field, they noticed a basketball court. The sound of bouncing balls, the rhythm of the game, the way the players moved, it caught their attention. Phanis and Giannis stood at the edge, watching with wide eyes. Something about it pulled them in. It was their first spark of interest in a game that would soon change the course of their lives. The local boys asked Thanasis and Giannis if they'd like to play, and the boys joined them. Giannis keeps holding the ball, and Thanasis explains that he has to keep bouncing the ball. Eventually, Giannis gets better, and the boys invite the brothers to the youth club to play later. When they return home, the boys watch a show about the top African basketball players.
Hakeem Olajuwon from Nigeria. He was a soccer player.
That evening, the family prays together, and Veronica wishes them a good night. Giannis tells his brothers that he would like to play basketball again, and his little brothers joke that he could barely bounce the ball. Thanasis tells him the youth center is far away, but Giannis says their dad won't like that. Thanasis says no one will tell their dad, and the boys make it their top secret mission. Thanasis tells Giannis that their dad always talks about opportunity and says this could be theirs. He says they could get picked for the youth center's team and even make money to help their family. The next day, the brothers ride the bus to go to the youth center. On the bus, they run into some men protesting against immigrants, but they eventually find their way to the gym. Coach Takis notices their entry and approaches Thanasis and Giannis. They tell him they're here to play basketball, so Takis tells them they need their parents' signatures before they can play. Giannis confesses their parents don't know they're there. Takis was initially perplexed, yet their towering stature earned both fantasists and Giannis permission to practice. During practice, Coach Takis taught them mid-range shooting. Thanasis, more flexible, found it easier than Giannis, whose body remained quite stiff. Still, Giannis was determined to try. The two eagerly sought their mother's signature, but their parents, discovering their distant venture, reprimanded them. Charles feared immigration would be alerted, So instead of signing, he punished Thanasis and Giannis.
Can you imagine?
Why are you reacting so crazy? It's just a couple of hours after school.
This is only going to jeopardize that and distract them from getting an education.
They need to have fun like normal children. Don't you remember when you used to play football? We should let them play. Let these boys be happy.
The next day, Thanasis and Giannis returned to the training ground. This session focused on dribbling and ball retention. Thanasis quickly mastered the instructions, unlike Giannis, who struggled with adaptation. Nevertheless, his determination persisted. He resolved to continue practicing. Similarly, when the coach introduced the fast break, the team learned to transition from defense to offense in 8 seconds. Despite his rebounding prowess, he was slow to make decisions. Thanas consistently encouraged his brother. Meanwhile, Veronica maintained contact with France and Nigeria, promising a future family reunion. The family continued their struggles as undocumented immigrants. Charles toiled as a laborer, Veronica cared for elders in a nursing home, and their 2 sons, rookie basketball players, aimed to uplift their family's standing. Thanasis' skills steadily improved, astounding Giannis with his brother's performance. One day, Charles visited the training ground to speak with Mr. Takis. The coach believed Thanasis was ready for the Greek League, with several teams already showing interest. He also felt Thanasis had a chance to join the Greek national team. Hearing this, Charles felt both joy and apprehension. He worried that if one son rose to prominence, their undocumented status might be exposed. However, under pressure, Charles ultimately accepted Pan's proposal when the Greek Sea Basketball League team sought to recruit Thanasis. He even received a signing bonus check. The family rejoiced at the news, embracing Charles's motto, "When one person in the family scores, the whole family scores." To celebrate, they went to the city for some enjoyment. They decided to buy 2 pairs of basketball shoes, one for Thanasis and one for Giannis, as both needed them. Unfortunately, when they tried to cash the check, it had been canceled. Pans had discovered Thanasis' family's undocumented status. Unwilling to risk Federation penalties for recruiting illegal immigrants, they withdrew their offer to Thanasis. Heartbroken, Thanasis was crushed. This time, it was Gianni's turn to offer support. He grew more determined to prove himself to the world for his family's honor. Consequently, Giannis trained even harder, tirelessly practicing jump shots, dribbling, and rebounding, everything. Seeing his son's dedication, Charles was deeply moved, resolved to help his children achieve their dreams. As a former football player, he understood the pursuit of aspirations. So one day, he surprised them. Charles, never one to do things halfway, gifted each of his sons Nike Air Force One shoes, popular among basketball players. He felt they had earned this reward through their unwavering effort. That very night, despite the rain, Danny and Giannis immediately put on their new shoes, practicing outdoors, getting soaked as they played a one-on-one match. For the umpteenth time, Charles sought legal residency, and for the same number of times, he faced refusal. Annoyed, he argued that his new status as a permanent employee should grant him permanent residency. Immigration staff bluntly informed him that, given the country's current state, his chances of receiving permanent residency were slim to none. Meanwhile, Giannis began to get chances in trial matches. Despite his developing skills, he often struggled during games, drawing the coach's ire due to his mistakes. Consequently, Giannis relentlessly pushed himself to reach the highest level. He immersed himself daily in Magic Johnson's basketball clips, never giving up on his quest to become the best. By 2011, this young man had transformed into a respectable basketball player. His jump shots had significantly improved. He was a constant fixture in the team's lineup, and his synergy with Thanas earned their team respect from opponents. One day, 2 scouts arrived to evaluate new talent. Both recommended Giannis and Thanasis, who were playing exceptionally well at the time. In the final minutes of the match, Thanasis suffered an ankle sprain and was forced to the bench. Thanas entrusted the leadership role to his brother. It was then that Giannis showcased his leadership mentality, delivering assists, scoring numerous points, and displaying strong defensive skills, ultimately leading his team to victory. After the game, the 2 scouts debated over Thanasis and Giannis, but Paco ultimately dismissed both. However, one of the scouts, Hara Faria, introduced himself to Charles. He expressed interest in becoming an agent for his 2 sons. When asked about Paco, he clarified they weren't partners. Though Paco was undeniably the Greek league's most influential scout, Charles then informed his sons. Giannis happily accepted Hora's offer, who promised to work tirelessly to skyrocket Giannis's name in the league. Sometime later, Horace visited Giannis's home, reporting that he'd contacted Greek teams, but Paco had stated no team would accept illegal immigrant players. Therefore, Horace planned to elevate Giannis to the international level through the FBA regional tryout, an international basketball federation often attended by scouts from across Europe. If Giannis was successfully recruited, his family's status would gain significant attention. This time, Charles prepared himself. To hit the jackpot, they had to be willing to face the risks. From then on, Giannis's role was to secure a better life for his family. It was time for the FBA regional tryout. Giannis played with several other players, forming a team against others. His entire family came to support him, especially both of his parents. They were anxious during the match, particularly Charles, who became so anxious he left the court and went outside. The match continued, and Giannis relentlessly strived for his best performance. Finally, Thanasis called his father, delivering the news that Giannis had played flawlessly, dominating the match. Charles then returned to the court and congratulated his son. Simultaneously, Hora was busy carrying out his duties. He then delivered good news. Basket Zaragoza, a Spanish team, was ready to sign Giannis. Greek teams remained hesitant about their players' residency status, but the more accommodating Spanish teams were willing to take the risk. They were prepared to secure a visa for Giannis and offered a 10% down payment on the contract. However, Giannis didn't want to leave his family. He asked if he could bring them with him to Zaragoza. Hora goes back to renegotiate. While they anxiously awaited Hora's return, Paco surprisingly came to their house after hearing about the Basket Zaragoza contract. Paco told Giannis that the Greek basketball teams had changed their minds. He offered 5,000 euros just for Giannis to visit his office. Paco stated he had received offers from Greek teams bold enough to recruit Giannis and willing to provide permanent residence visas for all family members. Paco urged them to momentarily disregard Horace's offer. While the offers were tempting, they decided to discuss it first. Charles leaned towards the Greek team's offer, as it guaranteed the family could stay together if Giannis accepted. However, Giannis felt it would be wrong to abandon Horace, and Veronica echoed his sentiment, believing it was unethical to disregard someone who had worked tirelessly for their benefit. Emerging from the kitchen, Charles confidently handed the money back to Paco, rejecting his offer. Paco, disappointed and angry, threatened to report them to immigration authorities as he walked toward his car.
You know, we can get you all sent back home.
This is our home.
Shortly after, Hora arrived with significant news. He informed them that Zaragoza couldn't guarantee their family's visa. On the bright side, Hora had included Giannis in the NBA draft list. He'd sent Giannis's profile video to a fellow agent in America, who expressed interest and immediately added him to that year's NBA draft pool. Giannis's contract with Zaragoza also included a release clause. If an NBA team showed interest, Giannis could immediately go to America without playing in the Spanish league. An NBA team would certainly guarantee the player's family's finances and provide residency in America, though it wasn't without risk. If he wasn't selected in the NBA draft, Giannis would have to return to Spain alone, and his family in Greece would likely be exposed. After repeated efforts to secure a visa for America, they finally succeeded. Obtaining even a temporary visa was incredibly difficult. Accompanied by Fanis and Hora, Giannis then departed for the airport, preparing to fly to New York City with a monumental mission: to be selected in the NBA draft and unite his family in the new country with Francis. Upon their arrival, they were welcomed by Kevin Stefanis, an American agent and Hora's colleague. Visiting the vast metropolis was a new experience for Giannis and Fanis, especially considering the possibility of Giannis signing with an NBA team. Their plan for the next day involved preparing a draft strategy and meeting representatives from the Nike shoe company in the evening. Giannis couldn't believe that the Nike they were discussing was the same company whose shoes he proudly wore. The meeting would explore the possibility of Giannis securing an endorsement from the company. NBA Draft Day was always a focal point for American basketball fans. Hora and Kevin aimed for Giannis to be drafted between the 12th and 15th picks, targeting teams like the Philadelphia 76ers, Utah Jazz, New Orleans Pelicans, and Milwaukee Bucks. That evening, they met with a Nike representative. When asked about his selling points compared to other players, Giannis, feeling he had none, instead shared his personal story. He spoke about his background as an immigrant living on the brink of poverty, often lacking shoes and borrowing from his brothers. He recounted staying overnight on the court to catch up on morning training sessions, emphasizing themes of integrity, life struggles, and loyalty. The Nike representative was touched by Giannis's story and promised to deliver news after draft day. On NBA draft day, Giannis entered the room in a sharp suit, attempting to smile at everyone. The 76ers saw Giannis's potential, but they, along with the Oklahoma City Thunder and Utah Jazz, were looking for more ready players, judging Giannis not quite prepared for the big game. A longer conversation ensued with John Hammond, GM of the Milwaukee Bucks. He interviewed Giannis to gauge his mindset regarding the game, appearing interested but also candidly stating that Giannis still needed more time to refine his game to penetrate defenses. He also noted the significant risk associated with Giannis's residency status, promising little at that time. Therefore, when David Stern stepped up to the podium to announce the draft picks, it became the most thrilling moment for them, especially for Giannis. For him, this wasn't just the start of a career, but a matter of his family's survival. Many names had been called up to the 14th pick, but Giannis's name hadn't been announced yet. Everyone was nervous, particularly his family in Greece, who were also watching the event. The last team to pick in that range was the Milwaukee Bucks. Neither Horace nor Kevin had received any contact from them. But just as destiny would have it, Giannis's name was drafted 15th overall to join the Milwaukee Bucks, the team he would later elevate to the NBA Elite League. With this team, he blossomed into one of the NBA's premier players. Crucially, his success ultimately reunited his entire family, including his oldest brother Francis in America.
Every day that I step on the floor, I always think about my dad, and that motivates me and it pushes me to, play harder. And Mom, she's my hero.
Awesome shot.